Welcome back to Let's Have It Out. I'm Bulelwa Mabasa, land reform and restitution expert. So this will happen every night that a different newsmaker will be hosting this program, giving you unfiltered, accountable and accessible opportunity to interact with all of us. My guest tonight still, Rendani Sadiki from the Department of Rural Development and Land Reform. I believe we have a caller on the line.
Hello.
Hi.
I'm on the line.
Yes, please introduce yourself and ask us your question.
My question is, we have got land that is owned communally, that was bought by our parents in 1931. All these years we have been trying, even now we're still trying to get to the Department of Land Affairs to give us title deeds of our portions of land. And we have been failing to do that. Nothing is happening. And the question is, what will be our position in this debate of land without, or land expropriation without compensation?
Can I ask a follow-up question on that? Have you submitted a land claim form for the land that has been lost?
We are not talking about a land claim. We want the department to divide and give us our title deeds. Right. We are staying in the land, on land. We are on the land,
right.
But we want individual title deeds to be given to us.
Right.
And the Department of Land Affairs has not been doing anything, right from the old government to this new government.
Thank you, sir. We will deal with the question in studio. Rendani, that's an issue that has arisen many times. I think the issue here is, what are we going to do about security of tenure? What is the department's stance on giving people individual title to land?
If I heard the caller correctly, he said he's in communal land. Mm-hmm. Currently, there is a communal land tenure bill that is in the process. I think we've consulted so far with 8 provinces. We're left with 1 province to finish the consulting, and then the process of having it enacted into law will then begin. Until then, we don't have a law that regulates the security of tenure at communal areas. And so hence the caller is saying he's been trying to have them get the title deed to that land. There is no...
Yeah, maybe this is more of a philosophical question. Yeah. Why is it that we are still looking at a communal type of land ownership when it comes to rural communities, or rather the former TBVC states? Why is it that we are not advocating for people in communal land to have the autonomy to own land and individual title? I mean, what has been the consultation process around that? And in asking that question, a thought that comes into mind is, for example, the issue of the Ngonyama Trust and the chiefs that we have in traditional law that hold land on behalf of their subjects, if you like, for lack of a better word. What is your stance on that?
I think that was the reason why we wanted to introduce the communal land tenure bill. And until that bill is enacted into law, the current status quo remains. That it's the current setup of the country. We've got communal land, we've got chiefs, we've got kings and the majesties. And I think that's how the law is currently, and until there is a bill that changes that.
I think we cannot be paternalistic about that and assume that that's what all the people want. I think there's more consultation. But before you finish that thought, I believe we have a caller on the line, Michael from Kuruman. Good evening.
Evening.
Michael, please go ahead and ask your question.
Yes. Ma'am, I heard the lady said on her opening remark that expropriation has been policy of government and has been implemented. I want to find out from her which land have been expropriated without compensation, and which region and which province that has been done. Because to my knowledge, government policy has been willing buyer, willing seller. And all the land that has been given back to our people have been bought back from the farmers. Can she just please explain
Yes,
to us?
are you
very
happy
much.
with the question? You're happy to answer it, okay.
Okay, thank you, caller. We have been expropriating, but not without compensation, because that is not provided for in the Constitution, and it's surely not provided for in all our legislative framework within the land reform. We do have records of those land that we have expropriated, but we have paid for it. So there has not been any expropriation without compensation.
Yeah, but I think what the caller has also mentioned is that it's been on a willing by a willing seller, which has not been what the Constitution has been providing for. The Constitution provides for just and equitable compensation.
Yes.
So the fact that the state became out of pocket, out of buying land on a willing buyer and willing seller, which wasn't a constitutional provision, I think is what the comment is centered around.
Until 2015, when we introduced the Office of the Valuer General, we have been buying on willing buyer, willing seller. But since 2015, we introduced the Office of the Valuer General, and the principle of just and equitable compensation for land acquisition or for expropriation has been introduced, and since then we have been buying in terms of the just and equitable principle.
Lots of interest on this topic tonight. I believe we have a caller, Busi from Johannesburg. Welcome, and please give us a question.
Hi.
Hi,
Good
Busi.
evening.
Good evening.
Thank you so much for taking my call. I think mine is probably a comment more than a question. I think I'm so encouraged by young women, young people who are leading this conversation on this debate. I think what is absolutely amazing about this debate is that it's young people who are going to take this forward. And I just want to commend the show. I want to commend the guest tonight to say I'm so encouraged that it's young people who are saying, let's take this debate forward. It is not for the older generation, but it's for us to actually figure out how we're going to make this happen. And thank you so much for making the time.
Thank you, Busi. Thank you, Busi, for calling in and to be giving us this encouragement. I think it is true that the voices that we need to be hearing has to be a multiplicity of voices, and also that we have women on this panel. And Rendani, I must also commend the work that your department continues to do on this topic. I mean, just on the work that you do and the challenges that you face, we know that this department hasn't enjoyed not even more than 1% of the national budget. We know that you punch above your weight. We know that there are really, really real challenges. What can you make of the positioning of your department in resolving this problem, especially when we start talking about moving away from restitution, when we start talking about redistribution? We know that in redistribution, we haven't even introduced legislation to deal with the concept of redistribution, which is the need for land. We know that restitution deals with having to prove that land was taken from you. But with redistribution, we haven't even started scratching the surface. With the challenges that your department faces, what do you see your role to be when it comes to redistribution? And also, given the urbanized nature of our country, given that we're 65% of the nation is urbanized, and not undermining the agricultural importance of the subject, what are we doing in the urban space, and what is your department's envisaged role in making sure that the discussion is not just framed as a discussion for farming, but rather as an urban reality?
Well, we do have a law. We have a legislation that regulates redistribution. Your Act 126, the provision of assistance for land and development. And we've been using that to acquire land and to also give grants for the development of the land. I think what we need to understand is that the department is not only land reform. We have the rural part of the land reform. So we are Department of Rural Development, and land reform. And in the rural space, that's where you find us more, not only for land reform, but also for the development of enterprises within the rural space and for the development of the land and providing infrastructure.
I have to interrupt you there. Please hold your thought. Can we please take a momentary commercial break? We will be right back.